General Grievous is dead set on attacking a hospital, and Anakin is determined to stop him. We watched Shadow of Malevolence for our Clone Wars Chronological Rewatch, and now it's time to break it all down.
After encountering the Malevolence in the previous episode, Anakin briefs the clone pilots of Shadow Squadron on a bold plan to destroy it and General Grievous in one stroke. They predict that the weapon's next target is a medical station, so they take a shortcut through a nebula to beat the Separatists. They're surprised to encounter massive Nibre mantas, and one clone named Matchstick is hit by one, damaging his starfighter. On the other side of the nebula, they engage the Malevolence, and Matchstick's previous damage destroys his ship as well as one of his wingmates. Anakin leads the attack on the weapon's bridge as it charges its main weapon. The clones take heavy losses, and Anakin eventually listens to Ahsoka's advice of targeting the ion cannon instead. They disable the ion cannon, saving the station and sending Grievous into a full retreat just as Obi-Wan arrives.
The message of this episode is easy is the path to wisdom for those not blinded by ego, and ego is a huge part of this story. We see it in Anakin, Grievous, and even the clones. So this episode is kind of broken out into the story of two separate generals, Grievous and Anakin, and they both have superiors or more experienced leaders who are advising them caution, and neither of them really listen. I mean, Dooku says be careful of Anakin, and Plo Koon is constantly like, I don't know, your ideas seem a little reckless, and we need to worry about clone casualties, kind of playing in on what we learned last week about Plo Koon, that he very much cares about his troopers.
Yeah.
And he's trying to impart that onto Anakin.
Right.
So, yeah, we see that Anakin is willing to go through the nebula, and, I mean, he basically makes this entire plan based on his abilities as a Jedi and a pilot.
As being, like, a great pilot, and he just assumes that the clones can keep up.
Exactly. And they can't. But when we're talking about ego, the clones say that they can. Like, early on, they keep assuring Anakin, they're like, no, we can do it. We're fine. We'll do it. But Anakin has to be the one to realize they cannot.
Right.
And it's his decisions that get Matchstick killed and his wingmate and a handful of other clones. And he ultimately has to listen to his Padawan. He has to set his ego aside and say, okay, no, we have to not go for the glory of the kill for General Grievous. We have to attack the ion weapon that's going to save my troops' lives and still ultimately disable the Malevolence.
Right. And Grievous kind of treats the battle droids as disposable. There's even a part where he gets angry and kind of like shoves one of them out of a chair. And
I think he knocks his head off.
He knocks his head off, and Dooku is like, those are expensive.
I like that Dooku's like, hey, why don't you pump the brakes?
Yeah.
And I also like that he destroys a battle droid, and there's another one ready to take his place immediately. And it's like, yeah, that is played for comedy, because, I mean, they're droids. They're, like, kind of disposable, but I do think that's kind of the crux of the story, is that we're seeing the way two generals treat their troops. And you're right, Grievous does not treat his troops well. He opens fire on them at one point, and ultimately it's Anakin's decision to treat his clones as not expendable that saves the day.
Yeah, he listens to Ahsoka finally and, goes for the actual goal.
Yeah, he puts aside his ego and he wins. Grievous does not put aside his ego and he loses. So, yeah, pretty cut and dry on that lesson.
Yeah. This seems to be a pattern in these episodes.
Yeah. And, we also get to see at the end that Anakin is remorseful for the lives that he lost. Like, I do think that he learned a lesson. And I think it's interesting that the last scene is with a Kaminoan who says, well, your Jedi sure is interesting. Like, your master is interesting for a Jedi. And, like, he actually cares about his troopers. And so I think that, yeah, Anakin learns from Plo Koon and comes to respect the clones under his command a little more. Before closing out, let's go over some of the random pieces of trivia from the episode. The Crumb Bomber, the Republic gunship with the Kowakian monkey lizard illustration on its side, can be seen in the Resolute's hangar. The illustration has also appeared in Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Resistance.
The four-legged power droid is called a plunk droid, and sure enough, that's what it says as it shuffles about.
The look of the Clone Wars era Y-Wing bombers comes from the idea that the Rebel Alliance Y-Wing was a chopped version of an older craft.
The design of the medical space station is reused in the Star Wars Rebels Season 2 episode Always Two There Are.
You can also find some of those facts on StarWars.com's episode guides, and they're currently doing a chronological rewatch on their website as well if you want to check that out. I'll put a link in the description of all the episodes listed out chronologically. But that's it for today. Next week, we'll cover Season 1, Episode 4, Destroy Malevolence if you want to watch along. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel,
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook,
and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.